Who's the scariest person you've ever seen in real life? My friend Naomi begged me to sit with her during her dad's final hours because she couldn't face it alone. She warned me her brother Carl was flying in and had a violent temper. She hadn't seen him in 5 years since he was banned from family events. In the hospice room, her dad was unconscious after a sudden stroke 2 days ago, left him unable to speak or move, though his eyes kept moving under the lids like he was trying to wake up from a nightmare. Naomi whispered that Carl's flight had just landed and he would arrive by 2. Her dad's heart monitor spiked dramatically, and spiked even further when Naomi mentioned it was 11:30. It eventually settled, but by then it was noon, and Naomi was already getting rapid-fire texts from Carl saying he was on his way. She kept checking the door every few seconds like she expected something terrible to walk through. Her dad's breathing became more labored and raspy, prompting the nurse to come check his morphine levels, but when she reached to increase the dosage, his hand suddenly clamped down on Naomi's wrist with shocking strength. His eyes snapped open for the first time since the stroke hit, wild and unfocused but definitely aware of where he was, and his mouth worked desperately like he was screaming without any sound coming out. The nurse insisted it was just involuntary muscle spasms that happened sometimes near the end. At 1 o'clock, Carl texted that he was 20 minutes away. Naomi's dad grew increasingly agitated, his heart rate climbing into dangerous territory as he tried to lift his head off the pillow. Naomi begged him to save his energy and rest, but he kept staring at the door, then back at her face, his cracked lips forming the same shapes over and over again. She fumbled for a notepad from the bedside table and pressed a pen into his trembling fingers, but his hands were too weak to grip it properly. He managed to scratch out a shaky letter C before the pen rolled away across the white hospital blanket. Naomi started crying harder, saying, "I know you want to see Carl before you go. He's almost here, Daddy. Just hold on a little bit longer." Carl walked through the doorway at exactly 1:30, and every machine in that room started alarming at once. He was bigger than I expected, easily 6'4" with shoulders that barely cleared the doorframe, wearing an expensive suit that couldn't quite hide the prison tattoos crawling up his thick neck. He hadn't even looked at his dying father yet, just stared at Naomi with cold eyes and said, "Jesus Christ, Naomi, you got fat just like Mom." Then he strode to the bed and grabbed his dad's fragile hand in his massive fist, squeezing hard enough that I saw the old man wince in obvious pain. "Hey there, Pops. Did you miss your favorite son?" he said with a smile that never touched his eyes, and his dad's expression transformed into something that looked exactly like terror. Carl launched into a monologue about how he'd always been Daddy's golden boy before Naomi poisoned their father against him with her endless lies and manipulations. He squeezed his dad's hand harder with each accusation, saying Naomi had stolen everything that belonged to him, turned the entire extended family against him. The heart monitor was shrieking continuously now, and Naomi reached for the nurse call button, but Carl casually yanked it straight out of the wall socket before she could press it. "We're having quality family time here," he said in a voice so calm it made the hair on my neck stand up. Their dad was desperately trying to speak now, reaching toward Naomi with his free hand, while Carl maintained that crushing grip on the other one. Carl leaned down close to his dad's face and whispered something I couldn't hear from where I was sitting, but whatever he said made the old man start thrashing violently against the bed rails. Naomi tried pulling Carl's arm away, but he shoved her backward into the wall hard enough to knock a framed photo to the floor where it shattered. I jumped up to help, but Carl turned those dead eyes on me and said, "Sit your ass back down or you'll need a bed right next to his," nodding toward the dying man who was still struggling. The nurse came in, and Carl transformed instantly into the perfect grieving son. The second she left the room, he went right back to crushing his father's brittle hand while talking about that night 5 years ago when everything changed between them. The old man was crying now, actual tears rolling down his sunken cheeks. Carl's phone rang and he stepped into the hallway to take the call, warning us not to move 1 inch while he was gone. The instant he disappeared around the corner, Naomi's dad grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and pulled me close to his face. His voice was nothing but air escaping his lungs, but I could read his lips as he mouthed the same thing repeatedly. I grabbed the notepad and wrapped his fingers around the pen, supporting his trembling hand as he scratched out several